Yeah. Well, it's important because I told you this have two aspects to it, and this is the very one. You would remember that in 2010, we had a storm, Otto. We took $15 million in loans. Remember in August of 2017, we had a flood. We took $15 million, sorry, $15 million in 2010, $15 million in August of 2017. Hurricanes Irma and Maria came. We had a situation where we needed additional monies. We went to the UK. They said that they would give no grants. They will give guarantees to get loans, but there are conditions for these. 300 million pounds, 400 million US dollars. These are the conditions that the Premier is speaking about. We are saying that when we did the analysis, we could only take up to $110 million before we ran afoul of the protocols. These monies are to repair the West End Jetty, government facilities in Jocelyn Dyke, the administration building in Road Town, rebuild the schools at the Elmer Stout High School and other schools, rebuild clinics, fix the road infrastructure, rebuild the administration building over in Virgin Gorda, rebuild a jetty in Anegada. We have already sent on through a revised plan to get all of these works done. They have not been signed because at the end of the day, the conditions are still not set, and we've been asked to come with this. For 15 months, we have fought this, saying basically that unless and until we become clear as to what these other mechanisms are and the deliberating factors, because we have two documents that become very important, because I've held these up before. We have the Protocols for Effective Financial Management, which signed on the 23rd of April 2012, but we also have a document which is on the 24th of November 2017, and it speaks of the high-level framework for which these monies could be had. We are saying that at the end of the day, you would hear of a petition which was sent by the Virgin Islands government asking for certain conditions within the protocols to be relaxed, to be eliminated, because they are prohibitive in all ways. I've heard, even up to this morning, there's no conditions that will allow you not to spend the money, except that you have to tell us when you would come back into conformity. Since those times, we have earthquakes shaking Puerto Rico. People are living in tents still. We have earthquakes. I think it was one down in Trinidad or Grenada here the other day, and we had a small one here. But then, come the 11th of March, there was a pandemic that was declared on the entire world. Shut down cruise ships, shut down the whole traveling world. And who is doing it right? Is New York doing it right? Is any state in the United States doing it right? Is the UK doing it right? Is London doing it right? Is Italy, Germany? Call a city, and I'll call you a problem. The fact is that we are living in an era that, since 1918 and the Spanish flu, we don't know about. So we're managing it as best we could. Lives versus livelihoods. That is now the argument. But we have to look in terms of how we can do this, because in 1978, you would then recall that we had the finance department being devolved to the ministers, to the government of the Virgin Islands. And I might say, come April 23rd, 2012, it was taken back, waiting for the next pandemic, waiting for the next hurricane, waiting for the next earthquake. Because at the end of the day, once you get into these issues that were spoken of, then there is a little known fact in fiscal sustainability, that if you go afoul of it, in the fiscal sustainability section of this, it speaks of no new non-guaranteed debt for reconstruction agencies without the prior UK governmental approval, divestment of public assets, which sits better in the private sector. And we have a series of these particular areas that we have to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, this is what it is all about. We're not talking about getting rid of transparency, accountability, or none of this. This document speaks almost every line about the violations, prior violations to the protocol, and they state those as a result of why this document was required. So we're saying, well, look, we're coming in and accountability will remain. You said that we must put back the auditor. She should not have been dismissed in the first place. We put her back. You said that we must keep the borrowing limits within a certain area. We'll keep them there. You said that any projects that is over 5% of the budget must be approved by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. We said we will do that. But then you said that if you go outside of it, then you would have these limiting factors that could occasion any of that. We said, okay, fine. But if we have to fund, and this is what my thesis is going to be about, if you have to fund recovery from catastrophic events, from your own funds or from loan funds, then you have a problem. World Bank is forgiving debts, IMF, they're forgiving debts in a number of other areas and other people who have come up against the very same thing. There's no country. The United States just printed $4 trillion in order to fight this pandemic. In the United Kingdom, they have already allocated up to $400 billion. We said, what about us? You wouldn't forget about us, would you? I said, well, spend all of what you have first, and then come to us. We said, okay, fine. Erase the protocols section, and we'll spend it. We cannot sign on to it, and then you come and say, well, didn't you read the document? Didn't you read it? So this is what we're fighting. And we have told others that we understand why they can't understand what we're saying. If you're a party to a document, it is difficult not to hold on to that which you wrote.
On the easier side, Premier, as Minister, Premier, this is on the easier